On your side now, right? Okay. Let's see how hadith. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. عن ابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حديث number 37. What to share? Right? عن ابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فيما يرويه عن ربه تبارك وتعالى. Two things to look at very quickly. عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما. Why عنهما? The father and son are Sahaba. And then he says عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, who narrates from the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم فيما يرويه عن ربه تبارك وتعالى, regarding that which he narrated from his Lord, exalted and full of blessings is he. Right? So this is a hadith Qudsi. A hadith Qudsi is what? Hadith which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam attributes to Allah, right? But it's not Quran. You can't read hadith Qudsi in Salah. That's just one of its differences. And it's not narrated or transmitted necessarily in direct words, but it could be in meaning, right? And also, it could be direct words, but it doesn't have to be. And how authentic is a hadith Qudsi? What's that? So a hadith Qudsi, sometimes people think that if you say it's a hadith Qudsi, it means that no, this must be nothing about its authenticity. You can have a hadith Qudsi that's weak. You can have a hadith Qudsi that is Hasan or sound. You can have a hadith Qudsi that is Sahih as well, right? So saying that the hadith is a hadith Qudsi is not saying anything about the strength of the hadith. It's saying something about the attribution of the hadith, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam attributed it to Allah. You still have to assess its chain like normal. So a hadith is a narration, right? It can be a narration about an action. So sunnah can be an action. Sunnah can be a statement. Sunnah can be an approval of Rasulullah. Sunnah can be a description of his either external or internal features. Those all form part of the sunnah. But the hadith is a narration about that. So it's always going to be in the form of a collection of words or a record of that. Like the way something else might enter the discussion in relation to what you're saying, action being almost an equivalence between action, hadith, or comparison between them, does exist in our broad understanding of the Sharia in the Maliki madhab. Right? Why? Because the Maliki madhab consider what they call amalu ahli al-Madinah, the practice of the people of Medina. Right? They're not considering the practice of the people of Medina because it's the custom in Medina, so people must follow the custom. No. The idea behind that is that if the entire society in Medina, in the time of Imam Malik, was doing things in a certain way, then that must be representative of the Sunnah. So they looked at that communal action or activity or way of the people of Medina as a representative of the prophetic guidance that was brought to that society. So it's a representative of the Sunnah for them. But what are they looking at now for as a representation of the Sunnah? They're looking at the action. They're not requiring a statement about the action. Hadith would be a statement or a narration about the action, whereas they were looking at the action itself. Right? No. There's no chain of, yes. There's no chain of narration. But there's the idea that the community, for those generations would have preserved the action. Otherwise, it would not have been something that the entire society done. But obviously, it's a matter of difference of opinion. That's why it's only one of the principles of usul in the Maliki madhab. The Shafi madhab don't use that. For example, the Hanafi madhab, the Hanbali madhab don't use that as a proof. But the Maliki madhab accept it as almost a living tradition of the Sunnah. Yes, it's not like one person is doing it in Medina. It's the general practice of the people in Medina. They'll have the specifics in relation to that. But I'm just mentioning that because it is a form of transmission of the Sunnah for them. Right? However, the Shafi'i madhab, the Shafi'i school generally consider the hadith to be the representative of the Sunnah. The representative of the Sunnah. And I mentioned to you before, remember we had discussions about the Sunnah and I told you the different levels of authenticity. There was weak, there's fabricated, there's weak, and weak can be weak on account of different things. Inshallah, next year we'll do a course on, maybe next year on like the science behind hadith. And then you'll have sound, and there's different levels of sound. You'll have authentic, and there's different levels of authentic. And then you'll have canonical or mutawatir, right? So a mutawatir hadith, a canonical transmission, where it's narrated by so many companions that like normally you deem it impossible to be a lie. On account of them not having any possibility to contrive upon a lie, to come together and contrive upon a lie. That narration, that type of narration, all of the madhabs basically consider that immediately after Quran. Right? That would be the second asl after Quran. Because that proof, the canonical transmission, is actually the way in which Quran is preserved as well. Right? So they would consider it there. And then in relation to the other types of ahadith and the Amal al-Madinah, for example, and other proofs, that's where they'll differ in terms of priority or sequence of proofs. And that's why you have different maybe some differences between the madhab because of the difference in the sequencing of the proofs. At least that's one of the reasons. Right? Anyways, let's get to a hadith. إن الله كتب الحسنات والسيئات ثم بين ذلك. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala كتب الحسنات والسيئات. He literally wrote al-hasanat. What's hasanat? Good actions. Hasanat is a plural of hasanatun. Hasanatun is a good deed. Right? Sayyi'atun is a plural of sayyi'atun. That would be its singular form, and sayyi'atun would be an evil action. Right? So what's Rasulullah telling us here? Allah has decreed already what the good deeds are and what the bad deeds are. Oh, objective morality. Am I a bigot? That's what the world would have believed today. But this hadith is saying exactly that. Allah is the one that decreed what the good deeds are and what the bad deeds are, what the virtues are and what the vices are. He has defined it. He has ordained it. ثم بين ذلك. Then he clarified that, he made that known. So then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, فَمَنْ هَمَّ بِحَسَنَةٍ. So the first part is, إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَتَبَ الْحَسَنَاتِ وَالسَّيِّئَاتِ ثُمَّ بَيَّنَ ذَلِكَ. Then he clarified that, فَمَنْ هَمَّ بِحَسَنَةٍ. So whoever, hamma, what does hamma mean? Ham can oftentimes mean to be concerned with something or worry. But ham can also mean to just have a firm intention. Yeah? Like you have a serious intention. And you can almost say that when you're speaking about ham, then it's like you're actually going to do the action. It's not like saying, I'm going to do this, whatever. When you're dead serious about it and you're actually going to embark on it, that's ham. So Rasulullah says, Man hamma bihasanatin, is attributing this to Allah actually. Man hamma bihasanatin, whoever like firmly intends to do a hasana, a good deed. فَلَمْ يَعْمَلْهَا. Then لَمْ يَعْمَلْهَا. Then he did not do it. Hamma is past tense, it's a verb. لَمْ يَعْمَلْهَا, then he doesn't do it. كَتَبَهَا اللَّهُ عِنْدَهُ حَسَنَةً كَامِلَةً. كَتَبَهَا اللَّهُ. Allah writes it, or Allah records it, عِنْدَهُ, by him, حَسَنَةً كَامِلَةً, as a complete good deed. وَإِنْ هَمَّ بِهَا, and if he intends it, like seriously, completed, كامل. وَإِنْ هَمَّ بِهَا, and if he firmly intends to do it, فَعَمِلَهَا, and he does it, كَتَبَهَا اللَّهُ. And yeah, you can see it's past tense, but I'm translating it as future tense because it's a conditional sentence. In hamma, if he intends, I don't say if he intended, then that happened. No, it's, we know when the in is there, even if you're using the past tense verb, it makes it future tense, right? Because it's a conditional sentence. وَإِنْ هَمَّ بِهَا, and if he intends it, فَعَمِلَهَا, and he does it, كَتَبَهَا اللَّهُ عِنْدَهُ عَشَرَ حَسَنَاتٍ. If he does it, Allah will record it by him as عَشَرَ حَسَنَاتٍ, 10 good deeds. إِلَى 700 ضِعْفٍ, and or up to 700 fold. إِلَى أَضْعَافٍ كَثِيرَةٍ, to أضعاف, multitudes, many, كثيرة, أضعاف كثيرة, many multitudes. So what he's saying, if a person intends to do that good deed and then he does it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will record it as 10 good deeds. Or Allah might even record it up to 700 good deeds, or even more than that. Or multitudes more than that. So there's like a, when you say ila, the word ila usually indicates a nihaya. From here till here, this is where it stops. It usually indicates a nihaya of something. But when you have this a nihaya mentioned and then another nihaya, it's Rasulullah like emphasizing the fact that actually there's no end to how much reward Allah might record for you for a good deed. Obviously, any deed is comprised of both action and intention. Right? So here we're speaking about having a resolve, that ham here is more like to have a resolve to do the action. But we can also look at the intention from the perspective of purity. And when you assess the action from the perspective of purity, or the niyyah from the perspective of purity, that's where that and circumstance, that's where those many-fold rewards come in. That's where the many-fold rewards come in. So one person gives a 1 rand packet of chips to somebody. It gets recorded as 10 rand, as 10 times. That's if you give 10 rand packet of chips. No, this doesn't work like that. You know, somebody else might have given 10,000 rand charity, but perhaps this person gave that 1 rand packet with a pure heart, and it was all that he had. In our on our scales, the two actions are actually incomparable. We wouldn't actually know how to compare them, right? Because the value of an intention is something that's unbeknownst to us. We can't measure that. Right? And I mean, that's borne out in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When the Battle of Tabuk came, we always talk about Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Umar radiallahu anhu. Abu Bakr, Umar radiallahu anhu thought he's going to beat Umar. Umar radiallahu anhu thought now this is his chance, he's going to beat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. He goes with half his wealth, only to have found that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu already gave all of his wealth. But even all of that didn't even amount to 1/3 of the preparations of the army. Because we know Uthman radiallahu anhu gave 2/3, he prepared 2/3 of the army. So, and you know, there's other narrations, but I think this narration is a bit weaker. That says that إنما حسنات عمر, or yeah, كحسنة من حسنات أبي بكر. All the good deeds of Umar are like one of the good deeds of Abu Bakr. Yeah. إلى 700 ضعف إلى أضعاف كثيرة. But I think that narration just that's from the Fadail. That's from the Fadail, but it's weak. وإن هم بسيئة فلم يعملها. And if he resolves to do an evil action, فلم يعملها, and then he doesn't do it, كتبها الله عنده, Allah records it by him حسنة كاملة, as a complete good deed. وإن هم بها, and if he intended to do it, فعملها, and then he does it, كتبها الله, Allah will record it سيئة واحدة, as a single bad deed. As a single bad deed. Say again? Look, values of deeds and all of this stuff, it's a reality unknown to us. However, there are verses in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the fact that He will give the deeds weight in Qiyamah. So some Mufassirin actually say that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about that, like about the Mizan being thaqeel, فَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ, right? You can't put La ilaha illallah on a scale. You can't put Subhanallah wa bihamdi on a scale. It's words. It's an expression of means. But for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that it's kalimatani khafifatani ala al-lisan, thaqilatani fil mizan. Light on the tongue, heavy on the scales. So some scholars have understood that to mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give the things forms. I'm wondering, I'm thinking to myself whether I must actually tell you like where it comes from. But in philosophy, there's an idea of what's called the alamul mithal, a world of forms. That even abstract things have forms. It's a philosophical idea. And so some ulama have said that, you know, it's very possible that that kind of thing can exist. And they present proof for it from hadith as a means of explaining things that are mentioned in a hadith that defy like space and time. Like there's a hadith that says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam everything, like on a wall. So obviously, when you say that to, I mean, we have a TV now, so, you know, to us it seems very, okay. You have a mithal in your mind, but if you say that to a Bedouin Arab or to an Arab, it's like, what does it mean? I mean, even the ulama till, before they were projecting images and stuff like that. That's something unfathomable. So that's kind of where some of those ideas came from. Yes, yeah, death. But the animal will be slaughtered, and it will symbolize, the end of death for certain people. Yeah, it's not saying sayyatan wahidatan kamila. And yes, it's showing you the generosity. The whole hadith is there to show you the generosity of Allah. In this relationship between amal and ham, you have 3 opportunities for hasana, and you have only 1 opportunity for sayyid. And on the hasana side, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is willing to give you multitudes. He's even willing to give you complete rewards when you didn't even do the action. But obviously, you must have ham to do action. You can't just say, you know what, I'm gonna. Is it when you stand up in the tablighi bayan afterwards, and they're taking the names and you put the name down, but you already know, nah, I'm not going there. I just don't want you to badger me. No. Like that. You actually have to seriously intend it. I'm guilty of it. I don't know how many times it stood me that I never did this kind of stuff. I was intending my own thing. There's I have thinking of myself, giving my life in the path of Allah, studying deen and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, so the hadith is more about Allah's generosity. The hadith is about Allah's generosity, and the hadith is also speaking about the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed everything. And just a second, in relation to the point that I mentioned earlier, Inna Allah katab al-hasanati wa sayyat, there's a number of ways in which you can understand that. And the way that stands out to us now, or stands out to me now, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defined what they are. Because it can mean that. But it can also mean from a perspective of taqdeer. Allah preordained what good deeds people would do and what bad deeds people would do. You can understand it like that as well. Allah recorded, when you understand like this, Allah recorded the hasanat. What hasanat? The hasanat that people would do. Meaning, Allah recorded all the good deeds that would be done, and Allah recorded all the bad deeds that would be done. But because you can see, Inna Allah katab al-hasanat wa sayyat, there's a lot of generality in it. So it leaves it open for interpretation. Yeah. You were going to ask? Yes, that is what it is. So if you intended to do an action, Allah will reward you as if you did that action. As if you actually did the action. And if you actually do the action, Allah will reward you as if you did the action 10 times. Or more, obviously, according to this hadith. Let's end over there. I think what we'll do now, we have 10 minutes, we go to that Badal Ishtimal thing, just so you can finish that.